Hello, Eon here, and welcome back to Total Drama Month. This is video number 2 in this series of videos. I know the next video I said I was going to make was going to be the most underrated characters on Total Drama, but I think I'd rather save that for closer to the end as one of the bigger topics I want to discuss. In other words, that's probably going to be one of my longest videos in this series. And after last time, these videos can get pretty darn long, so don't be surprised that this one and the next couple end up being divided into a couple of parts. Okay, the topic of this video is going to be the Duncan, Gwen, Courtney love triangle. In other words, I'm going to be dissecting this particular plot element and different aspects around it and giving my 10 cents on it. Before I start this video out, I am not ticked off by this plot element. Or actually, this is probably going to sound like somewhat of a rant, but I am not ticked off by this plot element because Duncan and Gwen get together or because Duncan and Courtney break up. It's because of how it was executed and what happened to the characters in the process that ticks me off, rather than the actual couples and otherwise involved. This is pretty much me giving another big long ranter some of my opinions about some of the characters on Total Drama. Well, starting this out, I'll say this much. I am technically a Duncan, Courtney, and Trent Gwen supporter, but I am not upset to see Duncan and Gwen as a couple. I'll start this out by saying this much. Duncan and Gwen do work as a couple. They have enough common ground, they have enough common interests, they seem to bounce off of each other very well. In other words, the relationship works. It works fairly well. I'd actually go as far as saying Duncan and Gwen work better than Duncan and Courtney do. But yeah, I've probably already pissed off a bunch of people watching this video, but I'm not really giving my opinions on the individual couples involved. I'm just going to dive right into talking about it now. Well, what I hate about how this is executed is the fact that in Season 3, Gwen, Duncan, and Courtney are not the same characters that they were in Season 1. And the character development that they've underwent, or what little character development they have experienced, did not really improve their characters at all. Well, out of the three, I'd say Duncan's close to remaining the same character that he was in Season 1. But as for Gwen and Courtney, they're completely different. Their character development has gone in a very negative direction, in my opinion. And I'm probably going to be venting more about their character development than Duncan's. I'm going to start off by talking about Courtney. In Season 1, I was okay with this character. I actually kind of liked her at that point. The kind of character she came across as to me was not just a type A personality, but what she came across as was, yes, she was determined and she had goals. She was a bit bossy, but she also really played by the rules. She played by the book. She had a huge respect for authority, actually. And throughout Season 1, as she kind of argued and got to know Duncan a bit better, they really kind of complimented each other and brought out better traits in each other. In other words, Duncan brought out Courtney's rebellious side a bit more. He got her to rethink the rules a little, and she actually helped him get in touch with the softer, nicer side. Development that you don't really see in Seasons 2 or 3. As a matter of fact, when Season 2 came around, both characters pretty much had a complete character overhaul. Well, more Courtney than Duncan anyway. I mean, where she still had some tentative issues with not wanting to break the rules and play by the rules, she was still kind of like that in Season 1. That's completely gone in Season 2. She is willing to break every rule and knock down every obstacle in her way to get what she wants. And she steps on quite a few people. This character development actually starts up as soon as Total Drama Island. In other words, the special in between Seasons 1 and 2. And it just continues to hike and escalate through Season 2 into Season 3. Actually, I'd say she was more tolerable in Season 2 than Season 3, because even though her character was kind of going in a negative direction, she was actually one of the better villains in Season 2. You could say that she was a villain. Her and Justin. And she was a better villain than Justin, I guess. But Season 3, that's definitely the lowest part of her character development. At least in Season 1, the relationship she got into with Duncan, it actually complemented and improved her character. And in Season 2, it kind of showed that she could be an independent character outside of a relationship. She wasn't obsessed with being together with Duncan. As a matter of fact, she seemed pretty darn determined to get the $1 million. And that seemed more of what her focus was over getting together with Duncan. In other words, that was showcasing her determination and fierce spirit. That's really what had Justin crushing on her and what kept Duncan around. Matter of fact, it was kind of a negative, that was negative character development for Courtney to some extent, but that could have been improved. That could have been built on a little bit. Actually, as soon as Season 3 came around, just from what little I saw of the further interaction between Duncan and Courtney, even though they might have patched up a couple of disputes or issues after Season 2, okay, I'm probably going to get some flack for this. But I think at that point, that was when those two did need to break up, because they had some serious issues. I mean, Courtney expected way too much change on Duncan's part. She was trying to wear the pants in the relationship, and she was way too damn aggressive. I mean, she was trying to completely transform Duncan into the perfect boyfriend. In other words, in Season 3, it looked like she saw him more as some sort of transformation project rather than a human being. She was one of the types that wanted to turn Duncan into the quote-unquote perfect boyfriend. Just, why? I've actually kind of posted my opinions about certain couples in my DA journals before, and what really got me thinking about these two was a comment somebody made about them together, and then other further comments throughout that. And I will say this much. In Season 1, it was a good thing when Duncan and Courtney complimented each other. They changed each other for the better. There are some character traits on Duncan's part that Courtney did bring out. In other words, she brought out his nicer side. She probably would have convinced him not to be a juvenile delinquent. She was probably close to leading him in that direction, but she was being a bit too forceful about the changes on his part. And then, I'd say the fact that she got so gung-ho about changing him is probably what drove Duncan away. And to be honest, I'd say it was time for those two characters to break up, considering that was a pretty unhealthy relationship. I'm not saying they couldn't get back together or work things out, but that'd probably take quite a bit of writing and development to really fix. But going beyond that, after Duncan and Courtney broke up, that's pretty much when she became my least favorite. And that's saying something. Heather used to be my least favorite on the show, but if anything, despite the fact that I can't say Season 2 or Season 3 are really my favorites, those two seasons made Heather's character a lot more tolerable and gave her a little bit of character development here and there. Whereas Courtney, her character development really took a nosedive. What made her absolutely unbearable in Season 3, though, was the fact that she was completely obsessed with her relationship with Duncan. That was her biggest goal, that was her biggest drive. I would have preferred to see her trying to win the $1 million instead of putting all her effort into trying to take down Duncan. In other words, I think she should have been focusing on trying to get the $1 million and sticking it to Duncan, that she was going to win the $1 million over him, that she wasn't going to let him cheating on her or anything like that get to her or interfere with her goals. The fact that it did bug her and interfere with her goals and just became the entire focus of her character throughout season 3, that's kind of what... She became absolutely psychotic. She was obsessed. She was unbearable. She was at the peak of her bitchiness. If going from the special in between season 1 and season 2 all the way up through season 3, Courtney's a pretty intolerable character by this point, in my opinion. I'm kind of hoping that her character development takes a turn in another direction. And the even worse thing is that it seems like her affections for Duncan pretty much redefined themselves and became attraction towards Alejandro. Jeez, I probably shouldn't go into this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I do not like Alejandro and Courtney as a couple. Yes, I'm an Al-Heather shipper, and that's probably the majority of why I feel that way. But beyond that, Alejandro would probably be 10 times worse than Duncan in some ways and forms. Yeah, they could probably make a decent couple, but even though they were just using each other, it was obvious Courtney kind of started digging him in some way, shape, or form, and, well, I don't think she'd be too happy to figure out that Al was just using her. And that he'd probably do so in the future, too. It doesn't really seem like he has any kind of affections toward her, or any kind of feelings toward her. Even though I dislike Courtney, that would be unfair to her. I think that she should give Justin a chance. As a matter of fact, if Courtney has to end up with any other character on the show, or if she doesn't get back together with Duncan, I'd like to see her give Justin a chance. I'd like to see how that one plays. Because personally, I think that'd be a pretty interesting couple to bring onto the show, and I think it just might work. Maybe. That's a very